Have you ever wondered why a man who does everything for a woman's comfort ends up alone, while she leaves him for someone who can't even promise her a peaceful tomorrow? We are used to believing that being good is a 100% insurance policy against a breakup, but the truth of life is much harsher and more interesting. Let me tell you the story of Steve. This guy was the walking embodiment of the phrase, the ideal partner. If there were a world competition for the most caring companion, Steve would have taken the gold. He remembered not only the date of their first kiss, but also what coffee she ordered on that rainy Tuesday 3 years ago. Every morning began with a tender message, and every evening was planned so that she wouldn't have to worry about a thing. Steve never argued, never raised his voice, and bypassed any hint of conflict like a seasoned diplomat. He created a world for his woman where there were no shocks, not even a light breeze. But it was this perfect silence that ultimately became his sentence. He protected her peace so diligently that he unnoticedly cut off access to the most important thing in the relationship, life itself. The finale of this story was predestined not by his mistakes, but by his suffocating perfection, which left no room for life. She left him for a man who could forget to call back, whose life was full of chaotic plans, and whose words sometimes made her heart tighten with frightening uncertainty. Stephen was crushed. He felt betrayed by the very logic of life. He asked into the void, "Where did I lose? Wasn't I the best?" The answer I gave him is what we at the Psycheria channel call the paradox of emotional tranquility. Stephen made a fatal mistake. He turned a woman's life into a perfectly flat line. And a flat line on the monitor of life in biology means only one thing: the absence of a pulse. Today we will analyze one of the complex topics: why the female psyche at a deep level needs emotional friction, and why flat stability destroys love faster than any loudest scandal. Contrast as the basis for perceiving life. Let's cast aside beautiful comparisons and speak the language of facts. Many men make a fundamental mistake, assuming that relationships are built on the principle of accumulating bonuses. I will be as convenient as possible. I will agree with everything. And then she will never leave. In their understanding, an ideal union is the absence of conflicts. But in reality, such a strategy leads to the woman simply ceasing to notice the man in you. The fact is that the human psyche reacts to changes in intensity. When you become 100% predictable and remove any emotional friction from life, you become a non-entity to a woman. You turn into a function, into a reliable but boring household appliance. You gave her comfort but deprived her of the main thing: the opportunity to feel strong emotions toward you. Attachment does not arise from constant agreement. On the contrary, it is tempered in moments of emotional tension. When you show character, when you are not afraid to declare your disagreement or firmly defend your boundaries, a chemical surge occurs in a woman's body. Attachment hormones, such as oxytocin, are released most actively, precisely in moments of reconciliation after an emotional clash. This is a biological reward for resolving a conflict. If you are terrified of arguments, you deprive the relationship of dynamics, without mood swings, without moments when she has to fight for you or take your opinion into account. Attraction simply atrophies. She begins to take your kindness for granted, and then as a weakness. Eventually her interest fades because there is no longer a personality next to her that needs to be deciphered and respected. A woman needs to feel that there is a person with a backbone next to her. Real intimacy is impossible without friction. When you are afraid to say no or make concessions for the sake of silence, you destroy her desire. A man who always and in everything agrees becomes uninteresting. It is important for her to know that you are a living person with your own rules, not just an executor of her wishes. Only in the collision of two different wills is that respect and passion born that keep people together for years. Remember, silence in a relationship often means not harmony, but that the woman has already emotionally disconnected from you. For feelings to live, they need a challenge. They need to see in you a force capable of resistance. The phenomenon of emotional weight or the search for a leader. Attraction to difficult men is not masochism, but a deep instinctive search for reliability and protection. It is vital for a woman to understand that she cannot completely control a man with her will or suppress him with her whim, because only then is she convinced of his genuine strength. If the partner instantly adjusts to her every desire, he effectively shifts all responsibility for where their relationship is headed onto her. However, a woman does not like this burden. She does not need to be the leader, as the role of a sole navigator deprives her of the opportunity to relax. She needs to see that her man knows the goal and maintains firmness, even when she herself loses her balance in a whirlwind of emotions. As soon as she realizes that you have become controllable, the sense of security vanishes without a trace, giving way to anxiety. In such a coordinate system, your compliance is perceived not as tenderness or love, but as an absence of an internal backbone to lean on in a difficult moment. This psychological surrender turns a man into a shadow, depriving his image of clear contours and weight in the eyes of his partner. If you never create conflict and do not go for confrontation, it means only one thing: you simply have no boundaries. And if you have no boundaries, it means you are a no man's land that can be captured, used, and over time devalued. Conflict in this context is the most honest form of manifestation of your I and your sovereignty. When you firmly say no or show coldness in response to disrespect, you confirm your real value and force others to reckon with your space. A man who goes into conscious conflict to protect his principles looks much more attractive in a woman's eyes than one who smiles ingratiatingly in the hope of avoiding a fight. This is a powerful subconscious signal of reliability. If he finds the strength to resist even me when I am wrong, then he can certainly protect our family from any hostile external world. A woman seeks not a submissive servant, but a partner equal or superior in strength of spirit, capable of withstanding her own emotional onslaught. Without this internal counterweight, relationships lose their gravity, lose meaning, and simply fly apart in different directions. Your firmness is those unshakable walls of a house inside which she feels truly cozy, because she knows for sure these walls will not collapse from the first gust of life's wind. Your will must be palpable and solid like granite, not pliable and viscous like raw clay. A man deprived of psychological teeth inevitably ceases to be interesting, even to the most peaceful and loving creature. Deep down, every woman dreams of losing an argument to someone she truly respects and whose strength she does not doubt for a second. Only by feeling your superiority and self-control and loyalty to your ideals does she gain the long-awaited right to be just a woman under the protection of a true leader. Psychological hunger and provocation of feelings. If absolute peace reigns in a relationship, inevitable emotional starvation sets in. The female nervous system is much more sensitive to nuances, shades, and shifts in emotions than the male one. When stimuli from the outside, that is, from the man, are lacking, the psyche begins to generate them independently from available materials. These are precisely the cases when she stages a grand drama literally out of nothing, for example, because you put the cup the wrong way, or answered with a slightly shorter message than usual. You look for logic in her claims, but there is no logic there. There is only a cry for help from dying feelings. She is trying to resuscitate your relationship through the shock therapy of a scandal. When you give her only sugar, her body begins to demand salt to restore balance. Men in such moments make a classic mistake. They try to solve the problem rationally, proving the absurdity of the claim with facts. But the mistake is that the subject of the dispute simply does not exist in nature. There exists only an acute, almost physical need to feel a spark, a collision, life. She provokes you not to win an argument, but so that you put her in her place, show character, and shake up her familiar little world. She wants to see a live, real reaction of a living person, not the program code of a good guy who always produces the same polite error. If you constantly extinguish these fires with endless rationality and concessions, You only fan the flames of her irritation more. At that moment, she doesn't need a fire extinguisher, but a counter flame of your will. She wants to feel your energy, even if this energy is directed against her whim. In this collision, the understanding is born that you are alive, and therefore, a future can be built with you. Her hysteria is often just an invitation for you to take control into your hands. If you do not answer the challenge, she feels lonely in this vacuum. Do not fear her anger, fear her indifference, which will come when she gets tired of provoking you. The magic of unavailability and the real price of attention. The fastest and surest way to devalue any gold is to start giving it away on every corner for free to everyone. A man's attention is a most valuable resource, and like any resource, it is subject to the laws of the market. Steve had this resource in huge excess. He literally buried her with himself. He was available 24/7, always ready to listen, instantly come to the rescue, and entertain at the first request. But in the world of human psychology, total abundance destroys value. Attention that is guaranteed ceases to be desired. It becomes like gravity, we don't notice it until it disappears. When you offer yourself without reserve, you deprive the partner of the opportunity to experience excitement and anticipation, which are the fuel for any attraction. At this moment, the magic of possession is replaced by ordinary consumption, where there is no room for a thrill or fear of loss. When you are always there and always ready to please, you cease to be a reward or an achievement. You become a free, taken-for-granted appendage to her life, like the air in the room. Unpredictability and a light, healthy, emotional distance are exactly what makes a woman invest her thoughts and time in you. When she doesn't know 100% how you will spend tonight, or why you suddenly became a little less talkative, her brain starts actively working for you. She begins to analyze, guess, try to please, and attract your attention again. This continuous mental work is the true foundation of love and attachment. A good guy commits a crime against love, taking away a woman's right to this internal labor. He makes everything too simple, understandable, and cheap. And what is given without a drop of effort is thrown out of life without the slightest regret at the first opportunity. You must be that book that one wants to read to the end, not a flyer that is glanced at for a second. Your absence should be as weighty as your presence. If there is too much of you, you turn into noise that one wants to get rid of. Your autonomy is not coldness, but confirmation that you have your own orbit, which cannot be entered simply by snapping fingers. Only by reserving the right to personal space and time do you remain for her that very peak that she wants to climb again and again. Intellectual challenge and the eternal struggle of meanings. Often men confuse the concept of peace in the family with a complete absence of their own position and views. It is important for a woman to feel intellectual resistance from her partner. She needs to see a personality in him. She is interested in arguing, clashing with someone else's firm worldview, seeing how a man reasonably and harshly stands his ground. If you agree with everything and nod, you turn into a boring echo of her own thoughts. And who in their right mind is interested in endlessly talking to their own echo in an empty room? This deprives communication of any spark. The gradual loss of one's own I for the sake of someone else's comfort turns a once bright man into a faded backdrop that over time stops evoking even simple curiosity. By introducing elements of intellectual challenge into the relationship, you maintain a spark and interest in it. Sometimes it is worth intentionally provoking a discussion, questioning her words, or offering an alternative perspective on things. This is a game, subtle and fascinating, in which she must feel that you are a worthy and strong opponent. Relationships where one partner has completely dissolved into the other are devoid of vital energy and a future. The tension between two strong, independent individuals is that very electric arc that maintains interest and passion for decades. Do not be afraid to seem uncomfortable. Be afraid to seem grey and invisible. Your opinion has weight only when it can disagree with her opinion. Only in the collision of two different worlds is something truly new and valuable born. A strong woman looks for a pole in a man, not a mirror, which will create a magnetic attraction. If you never argue, you never truly communicate. Deep respect is born from the recognition that the partner is a separate, independent planet with its own orbit. It is the presence of your own unshakable boundaries that makes you in her eyes not just a companion, but a full-fledged entity whose attention and recognition she wants to win every day. The scenario of correction and the need to be a co-author of destiny. There is a deep, almost mystical psychological need to be a participant in someone's important destiny. The ideal. Steve had no problems that needed to be solved or peaks that needed to be conquered. He did not need to be inspired to perform feats, supported in a difficult struggle, or change for the better. He was already a finished, completed product in a beautiful package. For a woman, this deprives the relationship of meaning as a joint project and personal adventure. The psyche often looks for something to latch onto, some complexity in a man's character, his insane ambitious goals, or his internal struggle with himself. She wants to be that catalyst that turns your potential into real greatness. In this process of creation, she gains her significance, feeling not just a companion, but a full co-author of your success. When a woman invests her spiritual strength in taming, understanding, or directing a complex, searching man, she becomes firmly attached to the result of her labor. She values this union because she has invested a part of her soul and her time in it. A good guy who is already tamed and stands on his hind legs from day one gives her not the slightest chance to perform this emotional feat. He is too easy a trophy to be proud of, and the value of any trophy is always determined solely by the complexity and danger of the path to the goal. If victory was achieved without competition, it brings no joy. A man must remain a territory for a woman that needs to be explored and conquered again and again. Once the exploration is finished, interest disappears. You must be that riddle that she will solve all her life, finding more and more new meanings in your union. Your incompleteness is the space she can fill with her love and support. Indeed, true attachment is born not where everything is smooth and clear, but where two people together overcome the resistance of characters and circumstances. Dynamics of pursuit and retreat. The dance of attraction. A new and extremely important aspect that many overlook is the cyclical nature of interest. In healthy and long relationships, attraction cannot be static. It resembles the ebbs and flows of the ocean. Steve's mistake was that he was always in a state of flow, always at the closest possible distance. However, in order to want to come closer, one must first feel the distance. Emotional tension is created at moments when a man takes a step back into his personal zone, to his affairs, friends, or hobbies. This is not ignoring. It is a demonstration that his world is wider than just one partner. Your temporary absence in her mental space creates a necessary vacuum that she subconsciously wants to fill with her presence. It is during these periods of distancing that your image is formed in her mind as a separate, attractive, and not fully deciphered personality. When a man retreats slightly, a woman's pursuit instinct kicks in. She begins to miss you. She begins to wonder. She takes the initiative to return that intimacy that for a moment became scarce. This dance of a step forward, half a step back, maintains the relationship in a living, vibrating state. If you are constantly running after her, she will only run away, or, even worse, stand still with a feeling of boredom. Your willingness to sometimes be alone or attend to your own affairs makes your meetings more valuable and long-awaited. Conflict or coldness in this context is just a way to create that very distance, which will then be so pleasant to overcome. If there is no gap between you, then there is no spark that jumps across this gap. Be someone to follow, not someone who always trails behind waiting for a command. Your independence is the most powerful aphrodisiac because it proves your self-sufficiency. A man who has the courage to be unavailable always looks more expensive than one who is ready to sell his time for the first smiling glance. Your personal orbit must be so stable that she herself strives to become a part of it, and not vice versa. Energy exchange through tension, the code of attraction. And the last thing that is important to realize is exactly how conflict and tension reset the chemistry of your bodies. When relationships reach a dead end of absolute comfort, the partners' bodies stop reacting to each other as sharply as in the beginning. This happens because your brain classifies the partner as safe furniture, that is always there and requires no attention. However, at the moment of a small conflict or emotional collision, the body releases adrenaline and norepinephrine. These are signals of alarm and excitement at the same time, awakening dormant instincts. When reconciliation comes after such a surge, a powerful dose of oxytocin and endorphins is released into the blood. This chemical cocktail literally glues you together anew, creating a sense of renewal and deep catharsis. Without these shakes, love turns into a bland habit and passion into a boring marital duty. Such emotional contrast works like a defibrillator, returning a pulse to relationships that have already begun to sink into a lethargic sleep. Useful tension is like intensive training for your feelings. If muscles are not loaded, they atrophy. If feelings are not tested for strength, they inevitably disappear under a layer of grey household dust. The ability to balance on the edge between complete trust and a light challenge is the true mastery of long-term relationships. You must give her a reason to miss you, even when you are in the same room. You must make her heart beat faster not only from quiet tenderness but also from light, stirring excitement. This makes you, in her eyes, a living, unpredictable, and incredibly attractive man whom she should hold on to with both hands. Real passion lives where there is a risk of loss and the joy of possession, not where everything is guaranteed and mapped out for 100 years ahead. Do not let your union become bland. Add the sharpness of your character and the firmness of your boundaries to it. Remember, a woman will never stop admiring someone who found the strength to remain a sovereign individual, reserving the right to their own, sometimes uncomfortable, opinion. Harmony is not silence. It is a coordinated resonance of two different frequencies. On the Psy-Career channel, we urge you, never be convenient at your own expense. Be valuable and real. Real harmony is not the absence of conflicts at all, but the ability to manage them as a subtle tool for growing intimacy. Write in the comments, have you ever been in the role of that ideal guy who was eventually traded for chaos and drama? Did you realize at that moment that your excessive predictability and compliance became a point of no return that deprived you of male authority? Let's discuss how to bring life and drive back into your relationship without destroying it to its foundation. Protect your unique individuality and never be afraid to sometimes break the oppressive silence. You are not a background for her life. You are the main character of your own story. Do not let your union turn into a stagnant swamp. Be that ocean that beckons with its depth and unpredictability. Insight always begins with recognizing an uncomfortable truth about oneself. See you in the next video, where we will continue to return clarity of perception